Why is it that some chess players play so good and some even struggle to win a single game? Well, in this video, I will uncover some secrets that Grandmaster use to level up their gameplay. So let's get started. The first tip is to have good opening knowledge. Almost 90% of the players don't have a good opening knowledge. If you played in the opening perfectly, then you are almost half done. For example, you all have played the Italian opening, which is e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and then bishop c4. This is just a few move order. Most players don't know what to do after that. For example, here is a favorite line that I like to play when black plays bishop to c5. This is the Juko piano opening. After that, c3, this is the classical variation. Black goes knight f6, d4, and then takes. After that, black goes bishop to b4 check. And here I like to block with the knight. Black takes and then short castle. This is the Greco gambit. And here, after black takes with the knight, you take back and then bishop takes on c3. And here you go with this tricky move, bishop to a3, preventing black from castling. And here, 7 out of 10 players takes this rook with their bishop, but this is a big blunder. The best move here was d5, which is very hard to find if you don't have a good opening knowledge. So what happens here is that white can play rook to e1 check, knight blocks, and then rook takes c7. Here, black have to either give up his queen or he will end up giving up his king. For example, if king f8, then rook takes f7, king g8, and then rook takes d7 is a checkmate. So if you want to be a strong player, then first learn the opening perfectly. And let's move on to our next tip. Calculating candidate moves. See, candidate moves is every good player's secret. Candidate move is nothing but all possible moves minus bad moves minus pointless moves. For example, here, this is a pointless move. Like queen takes doesn't make sense because king can just take. So these are all pointless moves. Candidate moves result in calculating those moves which make sense. For example, consider this position. Here, the first move which came to your mind might be queen to g7 check. But here, the bishop can block. And there is nothing much white can do from here. Even if here you check with the knight, the king can just run away. And you can't do much. And it becomes even more complex. But here, there is another option for white, which is knight to f5 check. If king to f7, then queen to g7 is a checkmate. Therefore, here, bishop takes. And then, you can take back, but since you are down in material, you should continue attacking until this king is checkmated. So, queen g7 check, king e6, and then you have another check with queen to d7, king e5, and then queen to d6 is a checkmate. So always try to find candidate moves which will make your calculation easier. And let's move on to our next tip. Calculating just 2 or 3 moves ahead. You might think that most grandmasters calculate 40 to 60 moves ahead and all. But that's not always the case. Some might do, but most good players can just tell whether a move is good or bad by just calculating 2 to 3 moves ahead. For example, in this position, this one is from one of my games where my opponent went rook fb8, attacking this pawn. Now here I could defend, but here I calculated a 2 to 3 move sequence which starts with rook takes c6 and black takes the b2 pawn and then rook takes d6, and here my opponent played rook to b7 and resigned the game because e5 was hanging and the a6 pawn was also hanging and my pieces are also very much active. So you can also just calculate 2 to 3 moves ahead and that's it. You don't need to calculate 10-20 moves ahead. And let's move on to the last tip which I found in every Grandmaster's gameplay. So what I saw every Grandmaster doing is that they defend every piece, even their pawns. Just look at this position. Everything is beautifully defended. The rook is defending the checkmate thread. White is defending every pawn. And here black can't do much. And white is also ready to play b4, b5 to launch an attack on the king side. And this is just amazing. This is what you need to apply to your games. If you defend everything, then you don't have any weaknesses overall and you will be at a huge advantage. Now let me show you a position from one of my friend's game. This is a position from one of my friend's game and here the position look quite equal. But what my friend did is that he played queen to c5 check, king g8 and then he took the pawn. He was 1500 rated and as you can see the queen was defending this rook earlier and he totally forgot about it. And here his opponent played queen to e3 check, king h1 and then rook takes d1 is a checkmate. So always remember to keep everything defended and if you continue applying this then you will improve your gameplay in no time. Tomorrow's video is going to be a special one and if you don't want to miss that video then don't forget to subscribe and check out these playlists for chess traps and Grandmaster's games.